What's up, everybody? This is Nick Blasco, and you are listening or watching the Weekend Warrior Playbook podcast. I am about to bring my guest into the room today, so let's get him here. Ricky, what's up, brother? How are you? Can you hear me? Ricky, can you hear me?
I sure can, bro. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good, bro. Doing good. Hanging in there, man.
Awesome. Well, first of all, how are you dealing with the whole quarantine thing? I know you guys have a quite the home gym out there on the Romo compound.
That's right.
But yeah.
Well, it's been tough. It's been tough, man. One thing I'm glad is that we're still working at the bakery. We have a bakery as well down in Ball Springs, and we're still functioning properly. Everything's been well, like regarding with the city.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of keeping me busy, and then get home, get a train here at home, having lots of equipment here at home, punching bags for my MMA training, CrossFit training, barbells and pull-up bars. So, that's always a good thing to have at a home
Awesome.
gym.
Well, sorry. Before we go any further, I didn't even introduce you. So we have here today Ricky Romo, El Toro. He is a MMA fighter with 2 professional fights under his belt. He is also a competitive CrossFitter as well. And he also works in a bakery, in his family's bakery too. So Ricky, go ahead and fill in any of the gaps that I left off there.
You pretty much got it in, man. Pretty much, I've been fighting for a few years now. I have 2 pro fights, which gone my way, which has been great. And I also do CrossFit, sort of competitively, try to do some CrossFit competitions here and there throughout training camp, and then throughout the year as well. So pretty much that's it. And other than that, I graduated from UTA with a bachelor's in kinesiology. And from there, kind of went in and took care of business with my with small home family business that we own, which is a bakery, and that's keeping us busy and just trying to stay in the full circle, man. So pretty much that's what we've been doing since.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, so just going back to what has like your with like this whole quarantine thing and the stay at home deal that's going on right now, what's your training been like? I mean, I know that the MMA gym is probably shut down right now. And I know our CrossFit gym is shut down right now. So kind of walk me through like how you're dealing with more sort of like the MMA training. And then we'll touch on like the CrossFit and functional training.
Well, you're right about that. Fortis, where I train out of, in Dallas, is shut down completely. So we're not able to get in there and train the mat, which unfortunately that's one thing I don't have here at home. And I obviously don't have drilling partners either. Usually they're staying at home as well. So that's kind of been the toughest part. But regarding like training wise, like conditioning and strength training, I'm kind of just staying on track, following some just programs from previous things that we've done either at Tigers Den or programs from like Misfit and other organizations and other stuff as well. But incorporating MMA training, I have a heavy bag which I technically use every day, and a lot of running. Out here in Forney, there's not much, it's kind of open space. So every day I usually run, a few miles, from 6 to 8 miles, and just trying to stay in condition. And so, I mean, other than that, man, I mean, training wise for strength training, it's been great. Having the barbell and having a home gym here is probably one of the best things that, could have happened during this time. Since it's been like 3 weeks since I've been able to train at a gym. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very nice luxury to have the home gyms. That way you can keep the training going, keep the strength work up. So do you feel like anything has fallen off as far as, like the fight skills, because you're not able to spar right now, you're not able to really grapple, wrestle, do some of the jujitsu stuff. How are you working on keeping that stuff honed in right now?
That's the tough part. You just mentioned jujitsu and the timing of like boxing in general. Like, there's no other way other than drilling with partners and having partners to drill with. Other than that, I mean, hitting a punch bag, you keep your power and your conditioning in your shoulders and your arms. But that's kind of a difficult thing to do. And when it comes to timing, when it comes to boxing, you can't do much other than kind of just shadow box and kind of have, I have my brother, which usually kind of get together and kind of spar a little bit, but it doesn't happen too often.
Heck yeah.
It's like the experience that we have in the gym, it's a lot different than, having just family members just join in and kind of like, move around with me.
Yeah.
All these UFC vets and having all these guys who, fought for different promotions, and that experience is just not there right now. But you got to work with what you have. And currently at home, I have my family, my brother. So Eric usually kind of jumps in and jumps on board on that for a while.
So what you're telling me is Eric's just too easy to tap, so he's not any good practice or competition, right?
No, nothing like that. Let me make sure I just reword that. It's just experience. I'll make sure just experience wise. But it's great. It's great, kind of just getting a different feel for it. And that's one thing with MMA, like you just get a different feel for everything. But during this time, especially like we're coming back to jiu-jitsu, you just mentioned, like I don't have mats, I don't have anything, so I'll drill like in a carpet in my living room with Eric a few times, maybe 2-3 times a week. But you can't really roll much other than we have a decent living room, but the space and just like having a coach there tell you, hey, you did this wrong, correct you. We just don't have that luxury right now. So unfortunately, just kind of just watching videos on YouTube, learning different techniques, and try to incorporate them the best way I can while, we get back on track, and hopefully this thing's ends soon, and we can get back in the gym and back to our regular training regimen and stuff like that. But it's been difficult for sure. Like regarding training wise and just drilling has been great. But then you don't get that actual sparring feeling that you just mentioned before. Like,
Yeah, that live action.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct.
Well, and so I think like now is the time to just be soaking up knowledge, right? Like I think it's just studying fighters, learning different techniques and stuff like that's probably the way to go, right? Are you still in contact with your coaches during this time?
I am. It's been tough. Like everybody's just kind of in their own little space right now, and I usually text them, see how everything's going. Trying to keep in touch with most of our coaches and even training partners, and usually find a way to like kind of train and figure out let's drill for once a week at least, or meet at this house. But unfortunately, with work schedule and then just coming back home and something like is it really safe? Is it not safe? It's kind of throwing a ball in the air and see if you catch it or not. At the end of the day, it's better just stay home, and having the luxury here at home, it's training with Eric and just training with my family, just staying focused, and like you just mentioned, soaking up all that knowledge, watching YouTube videos. And it's hard to incorporate those things when you don't have anybody kind of telling you what's right and what's wrong, or what can be better and what can't. But right now, I just filming myself and just going back and watching that film while I'm hitting the heavy bag, like, am I extending my jab for at full range and stuff, small details like that I try to work on rather than just focusing so much on like, developing a whole different type of fighter. So.
Right. Well, so I would be remiss if since this is the Weekend Warrior podcast, we didn't talk about your work life a little bit too. So kind of give me like a rundown of how the bakery's dealing with the quarantine right now, and how you guys are adapting to limitations that are set and trying to stay safe and all that.
Right. So, the bakery's functioning the same hours. We're still working kind of long hours, work from 7 a.m. all the way to 8 p.m. Technically the whole week except for Mondays, which we're closed. But other than that, we've just been functioning and trying to, regarding to the city, we just did 2 people at a time. And so things change, things become a little more hectic. But just figuring out how to keep everything sanitary and making sure we're just cleaning everything very often, handled. And, obviously in the bakery, in the week, especially with this cold weather, it usually gets extremely busy. And
that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people are at home, so a lot of people are looking at, hey, let's go to catch something to eat or get something to eat so we can eat at home. And so it's kind of been good for us because it's been busy, but at the same time, it's difficult trying to get so many people in at one time, especially when it's extremely busy and people get frustrated waiting outside in line and having all these issues and having their kids there and whatnot. So we're just trying to, literally just go with the flow and just try to figure out better ways every single day of keeping everything sanitary and making sure people are moving a lot quicker so they don't have to be impatient and, skip a line or whatever. But it's tough, man. It's definitely a tough thing right now at the bakery. But I mean, thank God we just continue to work, man. Like, I think staying at home for me would be brutalized somehow. You know, and mentally, it's just like I can't stay at home all day. I can only work out so much in a day. So.
I was gonna say that would be dangerous for you because I know
Right.
how much you like to train. You would not
Yeah,
stop.
yeah, yeah.
And so the bakery, how long has the bakery been around?
You know, we've been in business for 15 years now. You know, about 15 years. I started there at the age of 10. We opened up big age of 10. Now I'm 24 now, so 14 to 15 years.
Yeah. And give
Um,
tell everybody the name and where it's at so they can give you some business.
so it's in Spanish, Romo's Pasteleria and Panaderia, and we're located in Bar Springs, kind of Mesquite, Bar Springs area, and we've been there for years now, and it's been fun. You know, being able to see the bakery grow, you know, from since, you know, being in elementary school and middle school all the way through high school and then getting me through college and stuff like that. It's been an experience, man. It's been an experience.
Cool. And I think I remember having a conversation like a while back, like way back in the day at the gym. Like your dad used to be a pastry chef at like a hotel or something right before. And
Yeah, so that's how we kind of opened the bakery up. We worked from home for a while. My mom helped my dad make a few cakes at home, but himself, he was actually working at Amatel Hotel when it was called Amatel Hotel, down in Dallas as well. And he was a pastry chef. He was a sous chef there. He worked there for 25 plus years. And
wow.
then he decided to kind of take his own route. And, you know, we were young, so it was a tough thing for him to do. Big decision since me and Eric were kind of still in school and kind of figured things out. But he took a risk, and you know, we kind of just been there supporting him and kind of helping out the family and kind of just keeping that business going. And thank God it's gone our way, man, for sure.
That's awesome. So I heard this phrase a couple of weeks ago that was it was a forever restaurant. And they said anything past 7 years is a forever restaurant. So you guys have more than doubled that, and that's amazing. So shout outs to you guys, your dad and your whole family that, you know, puts a lot of time and effort and love into everything that you produce. That's so cool.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's been tough. And, you know, there's been times where we saw it rough and we're like, man, is this really gonna, you know, last forever? How are we gonna do it? Who's gonna take over the business? It's a tough decision to make, especially when you're, you know, getting close to the end of the contract. And like, do I want to renew this contract? Do I want to continue going? You know, for my parents, like, am I too old to continue doing this? Is it too much work? Is the workload too difficult for us to take over? You know, so sometimes it's a challenging thing to do, especially having our parents there to work, and then
And working with family is probably not always easy too.
it's not, you know, there's always conflicts, but it's always conflicts that we can kind of resolve and settle in and kind of be like, you know what, everything's going to be okay. There's days that some people are frustrated. Eric goes to work, comes in the weekends and helps out. So everybody has their own schedule and everybody has their own things to do throughout the day. So just kind of figuring that out and figuring out what's the best time for everybody to be there. It's a challenging thing for sure, especially when it comes around, you know, personally issues, my fight camps, you know, like trying to get some rest in through our sessions, through our training sessions, and then going to the bakery. And a funny story I would tell you, like, for instance, my first pro fight, you know, obviously we have weigh-ins on Thursdays, you know, kind of jumping on board, and that happened. And so Thursdays are weigh-ins, and then Friday, you usually have a rest day, recover, eat well, rehydrate in the morning and whatnot till fight night, Friday night. But, you know, at the bakery, it was extremely busy during my first pro fight. I actually had to go to work in the morning that Friday before heading to my hotel and getting some rest at the end of the day, right before my fight. So I was working from like 8 a.m., which I woke up around 8 a.m., kind of slept in a little bit, through like noon. And then from that time, from noon, just kind of left to my hotel, took a nap for like, you know, 3 or 4 hours, and then headed to the venue. And it's tough, man, but, you know, it's one of my training things, man.
Oh my, see that right there. That is the weekend warrior right there. You worked over a full day for most people and then went and fought that night.
That's right. That's right. And it was tough, man, but mentally, you know, I felt great. Like, I felt like, you know, I had a normal day. I could just go in there and, you know, I knew what I had to do. Everything was done. The hard part of the day was, I mean, the hard part of the fight week was done, which was weigh-ins. And then I was like, you know what? You know, I got caught, and they told me, like, you don't have to come in, you know, but, you know, we're missing this productivity for the bread and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I'll just go in there, do what I got to do and get out in a few hours, head to the hotel, took a nap. And then from there, went straight to the venue and kind of rested up till it was my time to fight.
Well, don't leave off the fact that you won too. So
Right, that's right. So, it must have been a good thing, right?
Was that the Combate fight?
That was my
Combate
first pro
America?
fight for Combate America, that's right.
Yeah, that was such a cool experience. I was there personally to watch live, and it was so cool to see like the setup of it. I mean, it was just like UFC. I mean, they had the big camera on the crane, they had everything. Like, and I actually rewatched that fight this morning on YouTube, and I
Right.
mean, the camera angles were great. I mean, the commenting, all of it is really, really a stand-up professional organization. Combate Americano, shout out, like they were, wow, really cool. I was
Yeah,
very impressed by all of it.
they were great. They were great from like the day we checked into the hotel all the way through fight week, and having everything ready for us, having everything just set up perfectly. We didn't have to worry about where we had to be at a certain time. They literally had everything settled and perfect, and I mean it was a great experience. Definitely, Combate America did an amazing job, and hopefully they come back to Dallas soon so we can get in their card again.
So let's talk about that organization a little bit. I'd assume it's a regional organization, right? Taking place mostly in like the Southwest and in
Yeah.
Mexico.
So actually, they're actually all over the place. They're
Oh,
worldwide.
okay.
They went to like Peru and had like a different tournaments and stuff like that. And so they're everywhere. They go to Mexico, but usually they're like Mexicali. They usually do big events down in Fresno kind of area. It's a Latino promotion, but obviously fight people from all over the world. They usually fly people in. Some people are coming around the world just to fight for their organization because it's such a big and organized organization that
Oh, wow.
it can actually, I mean, they pay well for like your hotel or your flight, so you don't have to worry about anything other than just getting here, making weight, and getting ready to fight Friday night.
And so with them, like, how does that work to like all the people that really don't understand how like the fight game works in general with MMA? So do you sign on for like a one fight? Do you sign on for multiple? Like, how does that work generally? And another follow up question too would be how did they find you, or how did you find them?
One of the biggest things is having a great team behind you, and that's one thing I do have at Fortis MMA. Our head coach Say Saud does a great job, and my head trainer Damon Jackson as well. He actually, they take care of business of regarding like lining up a fight for you. So different organizations, for instance, since I'm just kind of beginning into a career of fighter, you get picked up by organization. You get one fight, you get a contract for one fight. You do well, and they usually want you back. You win the fight, you have a lot of, ticket sales and stuff like that. That's how you usually get fights for different promotions. So the bigger promotions usually want you to have a few fights under your belt, so they can be like, okay, we can promote this guy, promote this kid to, fight at a main event. That's what we want to get to sooner or later. But so every organization is a little different. Some of them usually give you a contract with 3 or 4 fights, others just one, others two. It all depends. But I'm usually kind of free, like regarding organizations and who I fight for, like promotions. I usually try to get a one contract thing just because I want to stay active. At this stage where I'm at now, which is only 2 pro fights, I kind of want to stay active. So different organization comes to Dallas or around Dallas area, then I can just pick up a fight. I don't have to wait for that same organization to either call me for me to fly somewhere else, or they can just come back to Dallas. So I don't have to kind of wait throughout the process of them getting back to near Dallas area.
Gotcha. Yeah, and again, like what a really cool organization, really cool to watch. And if anybody from Combate happens to listen to this or watch this, you saw Ricky Romo brought people out there. There were ticket sales. There was a ton of people cheering on
Thank you,
Ricky.
thank you.
So this guy's gonna bring a crowd, and I will do the best that I can to get as many people as I can there as well, because it was really cool to see. So let's walk it back a little bit, and how did you get into MMA? Like, where did this start? Like, how did you first find that, because a lot of us, we sit and we watch the UFC fights or whatever. Like, I know, like, I was a big Ultimate Fighter fan when that was still running strong on TV, but like, you took the leap to doing it. You were like, I think I could do this, and you stepped in and did it. So like, where did that drive start to happen? When did that all come together?
I've always loved to play sports, staying active, and I've always loved to challenge myself. That's one thing with me. Like, regarding sports, like I'm trying to find whatever really drives me to do something and kind of work and, have a lot of dedication to it. So when I was, college and high school, played a little bit of football there, and I was always like, you know what, I need to get this somewhere. And then unfortunately, I wasn't built to become an NFL player. I wasn't built to, become an NBA player or anything like that. I just didn't have the size, the stature to kind of like, step up to play one of those guys who weighs 240 pounds, and, runs a 4.4 in the 40. So, I kind of just like kind of laid back on it, left UNT, and focused in academics, and went to UTA and just kind of studied kinesiology. But I was always kind of had that like tingle in my mind, like, you know what, I need to continue to do some type of sport. And one day I kind of just dropped into a class, and I took a private session with Damon, my head trainer, which is still my head trainer now. And he was like, "Hey man, great job today. Keep up. Keep doing this at least for conditioning, and we'll see where it takes you." A few months later, I was down in pro training one night. He was like, "Come on in during pro training in the evening. Starts at 8 p.m. Blah blah blah." I was like, "Great, I'll do that," and kind of gave me a conversation of what's gonna happen, how it works. Stepped in there, and Coach Saif Saud actually put me in the cage with one of the guys who was gonna have a fight soon, maybe like 2 years back. And I kind of just stepped in, took the hits like like I was supposed to. I couldn't go in there just kind of stepping backwards. So I kind of went in there and took some punches, took some kicks to the stomach, which kind of didn't feel great, but it was a way for me to learn and and I knew if I stuck around after that, sparring sessions and a few training sessions like that, and I kind of fell in love with like the dedication that I needed to get better, and I needed to be able to compete with these guys that are high level athletes. And so I was like, you know what, I'll stick with this and see how far it takes me. And it's gone well so far. It's only been 2 fights, but it's been a great year. This past year is when I had both my pro fights.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. Cause, I think you see a lot of times people jump into something that they're maybe not familiar with or they haven't done before, especially when it's a physical activity. And, you may get tossed around by somebody that you look at them and think, no way that person should be beating me like that. Or maybe in jiu-jitsu, you get tapped out by like a 110-pound, guy or female or whoever. And you're like, what the hell happened? And for you to not just be defeated by that and walk out, but to come back and be like, you know what, I'm coming back at the later session and I'm gonna try this again, and keep coming back is really cool. Now, so were you a fan of mixed martial arts before? Did you watch the UFC, anything like that?
Not really, not really. And to this day, it's when I've just started now kind of keeping up with the UFC and different organizations like LFA as well. But before that, I kind of watched boxing. Family used to kind of love watching boxing, so I kind of stuck with that for a while. But I mean, never really had any mixed martial arts background, just kind of conditioning. Like that's all I used to do, just work out, lift weights, run a lot. And that's kind of what drove me to like CrossFit and MMA, especially in specific MMA. Like I just had that work ethic regarding like training wise, but never really specific training. Like never like, boxing or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu that you just mentioned. More just like, okay, I'm gonna go out there. If I'm not sweating, I'm not working hard enough. That was kind of my mentality at that moment.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times you see a lot of these guys that come into mixed martial arts have some sort of a background, usually like wrestling, or maybe it was karate or jujitsu or something, or some sort of a martial art. But like just you're an overall athlete and just picked it up well. You really like adapted to it in the very beginning, which is really cool. And for anybody that knows you at Tiger's Den CrossFit, or our gym that we train at, they know Ricky as the cardio king. Somewhat of a mythical, a folklore, if you will. Like everybody knows there's a cardio workout on there. If there's a lot of running or a lot of burpees, this man's probably going to be at the top of the leaderboard here. So, I mean, and I think that equates so well to like MMA, where it is go, 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 3 to 5 minutes straight, depending on like the organization or the round time. And then, 1 minute rest, right back in. So walk me through like your lead up to that first fight. And kind of you had an amateur fighter too, right, under your belt before then, where you got into the octagon. But this was a big organization. You knew more people were going to be there. There was a lot bigger lights, kind of bigger recognition. It's taped. It's whatever. You had coaches in your corner and all that. So kind of take me like the lead up to that, like your mindset of walking out into the octagon, and kind of what you're thinking and what you're focused on in that point.
So yeah, it's during fight week, you always have, so many things going through your mind, that's when you can't second guess yourself. What is the work that's done is done. There's nothing you can do through fight week that can change or alter the way you're going to fight during that night, other than your mentality. That's one thing that's the most important during fight week. Just staying sharp, making sure you're making weight for weigh-in day, which is on Thursdays most of the time, because fight night is Friday night. So, just kind of going in there saying, okay, I'm going to make my weight, finish that, check that off the checklist, and then from there, settle in and rehydrate, make sure you eat right, and make sure you're just mentally there, mentally present. That's one of the biggest things. A lot of times we're like, oh, I'm kind of tired, I'm fatigued. Once you get into that mindset, if you're fatigued or tired or kind of doubting yourself or second guessing yourself, that's when things get kind of difficult, especially for a fight that's going to be 3 or 5 minute rounds, depending on the organization. So the biggest thing with me was just kind of like making weight, having a checklist throughout that week. I made weight. Next thing, drill Friday morning, making sure I'm sharp, making sure I feel loose, and just obviously I had to work, which is not a very common thing to do before a fight, but making sure you get a little bit of rest before your fight. Just being present, being calm, being relaxed, which is very difficult to do. It's not an easy thing to do when you're, knowing you're gonna fight. There's you and another person across the cage, literally want to knock your head off. That's all you're thinking about. So both of you guys, I have the same mindset, but at the end of the day, it's like you just mentioned, it's a go, go, go thing. Like if your condition is not there, if you're not mentally prepared, physically prepared, conditioning wise, then it's going to be a difficult fight, regardless of how much technique or how great you are. You just got to have those things, completed. It's like a checklist thing. Like if your conditioning is complete, if you did the work, you ran your miles, if you collected all the miles throughout the week, if you hydrated properly throughout camp, all those things have to be done before the fight even starts. And so if you have that, in the back of your head, then you got to know that you're going to go in there. You're going to do whatever comes naturally. You're going to stick to your game plan, which you make throughout your fight camp, whether it's boxing, whether it's taking the kid down, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whatever your game plan is, you just got to execute. That's the biggest word during fight day, execute. If you do that, you're going to come up victorious. If you don't, unfortunately, sometimes things don't go your way all the time. You might get a knockout. You might get knocked out by the person, a punch you don't see. And those are the punches that you do knock people out. And regardless of how ready and prepared you are, you get hit in the temple. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Well, so kind of like, so you say you have a game plan, right? Like you've studied this fighter, like, once you kind of get like deeper and deeper into the pro fights where guys have records and there may be some video on the guy or something like that, and you have a game plan going into the fight, like that maybe somebody's susceptible to a takedown or they never check leg kicks or something like that. Like, so how easy is that to keep that in your mind and to stay on track with like the game plan rather than like just go fucking barbarian, like fight or flight kicks in and you're just swinging and going and all that. So like kind of walk me through, like, how do you mentally keep focused on like what your coach and your team and your game plan is for that fight?
It's like I just mentioned before, it's whatever you did in training is what you're gonna do in a fight. You can try to stick to game plan, but once you're fatigued, once that second round and third round hits and kind of like you're fatigued, you're tired, you're not thinking straight, you got a few, hit, kicks or punches to your head, you're dazed up a little bit, but whatever's going to happen at that moment is whatever you train during training camp. If you train to just go forward, keep fighting, take the kid down when you're dizzy, when you get dazed or anything, that's what you're going to do during a fight. If you train backing up and you're tired, you're fatigued, you're bending over, then obviously that's what you're going to do during your fatigue process. So during that fatigue is when you have to kind of just kick into gear and be like, all right, I've trained this, I know what I'm doing. just kind of let your body take over and just kind of it becomes a second nature thing. I would say there's not much, there's not a lot of thinking during a fight, especially when you're getting punched in the face and you're getting kicked to the face as well.
Yeah.
So it's whatever you train during camp, it's what's gonna come out during a fight. So if you train kind of sluggish, you didn't really push yourself, it's gonna show in the fight sooner or later. If you get a first round knockout, well, good for you. But if you go into deep waters, then it's gonna be a tough fight for you to finish.
I completely 100% agree with you on that, because I think it was Ben Smith who said, who's a former CrossFit Games champion, and I think this completely equates to CrossFit, and like how you train is how you're going to compete. So like if you're shaving reps in training and CrossFit, like during a Metcon, or if you're dogging it, if you're taking more rest than you really need to, that's the way you're going to compete. Your body and your mind is going to go back to that place. So like, and I see this out of you when we work out, is like that go, go, go mentality of like, I'm going to push just as hard in this training session as I would do if I was in a competition. And I think that is key to your success. And while you're such a good athlete, is having that mentality of like, I'm not taking this rep off, or I'm not taking this, I'm not taking a break if I don't absolutely need it. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Like you just mentioned, I mean, there's no other way to put it. When you're fatigued, your body's going to do whatever it's trained to do. If it's trained to kind of quit and just kind of lay back and take things chill, it's going to do that. If it's trained to continue moving forward and continue pushing yourself to where, because there's so much in us, so much potential that sometimes we don't ever think we have, or we kind of doubt ourselves. And I think that's when it becomes an issue, especially during a fighting game. Like as soon as you have a little bit of doubt in yourself, people will be able to kind of read that. People will be able to see you stepping back. They'll be like, you know what, this kid is scared, or he's fatigued, or he's tired. But usually the people across the cage are as tired as you are. So you can only keep moving forward in order to win a fight. As soon as you stop stepping backwards, then things are going to get ugly real quick. But if you can just kind of fight through that fatigue and fight through, a head kick or, a punch to the temple, then you just got to keep moving forward. There's no other way to say it. No, that's the best way to say it for fighting. It's a tough game for sure.
Well, and let's take like that first fight, for instance. And, I think like pretty early on in the first round, it looked like, and maybe it wasn't as bad as it looked. Like it looked like you ate a pretty big leg kick, like to the head in the first round, And so like talking about that doubt setting in, like how are you able to like control that doubt and to keep confident and to keep pushing forward? I've been reading a lot into mindset of an athlete recently, and like that kind of those top tier athletes that have like that killer instinct, or that like there's no doubt, there's that ultimate confidence. And I think that's key in whatever competitive sport, or even in business and in sales. I think this equates as well. But I definitely think that you portray this. Like, so how, like, what is it that you're thinking about, or how do you diminish that doubt, or that self-doubt?
I mean, it will go back to training. I think that's the thing. Like the way I train and the way I even do conditioning, or when I go to Tiger's Den and do a Metcon or do my conditioning there, just pushing myself, knowing that sooner or later I'm gonna need the conditioning. Sooner or later I'm gonna have to be in a fight where I came back down. You mentioned the leg kick to my head. I did take a pretty bad leg kick to my head. The first and second round. First round he got me. Second round he got me while I was bending over a little bit, kind of shooting for a shot, for a wrestling shot, and he caught me right above my eyebrow, and it sliced me open. But mentally, I was dazed, I was dizzy, but I knew that I had to move forward, because I knew if I was, move backwards, they would either stop the fight because I'm moving backwards and kind of not defending myself, or I can just continue moving forward, take this kid down, clinch him up, and just kind of recalibrate myself and relax a little bit, catch a few breaths, and then break off and continue fighting. That's the only mentality that I had during that time. Like that was the two questions I had. I knew that I either had to move forward and continue fighting, and because I knew that if I step backwards, this kid's gonna go all out. Once you smell, blood in the water, it's just like people are gonna eat you regardless of anything. People are gonna want to finish you quickly. Nobody wants to go, another 5 minutes in a fight or another 3 minutes in a fight, being under fatigue and tired. And so as soon as you see a small opening, somebody's tired, somebody's fatigued, and they show it in a fight, then people are going to take advantage of that. They're going to want to finish the fight quickly. And so you can't have any self-doubt, any second thoughts in a fight other than just making sure you stand up, making sure you're moving forward, and making sure you're just fighting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a part of the game. It's a fighting game.
Oh,
No backwards.
I think that's huge. I think the mental part of fighting, and of course, this is coming from a complete outsider's perspective. I've been in a few street fights here and there, but never, never anything legal or in a cage. But I feel like that the mentality, and this is going back to like the famous book, The Art of War, right? It is the one who wins the mental battle who is going to win the fight.
That's right.
Because if you show your opponent that you're not intimidated by them at all, that your ultimate confidence is bigger than theirs, then you create this big presence, right? You become bigger than you are, and that starts to shrink their mind a little bit. I think, like Conor McGregor is somebody that's amazing at that, right? I think there's tons of examples out there in the UFC, but I also think, somebody, if we take it back to CrossFit, like Matt Frazier, ultimate mindset. He's going into every workout knowing that he's going to win that workout, and it's like, and I think everybody around him, he has that mental power over, and that's huge. I think that's really cool.
I agree. That's a great example. Matt Fraser, that's one person I look up to as well. During CrossFit, I usually watch a lot of CrossFit motivation as well. And you see this guy during a workout, and it might be the second or third event of the evening, and this guy's just pushing through the events like as if it was the first event. And you see, he would kind of take a look to the side, see how people are doing, but he's so focused in his lane, he's so focused in himself that he doesn't have to worry about breaking, or if somebody next to him breaks, he's going to continue doing whatever he has to do. It's him against the time, and he knows that. And once he knows that, he doesn't have to worry about his surroundings. And I think that's one thing with any competition, any sport, any business, anything. If you focus on yourself and worry about just kind of getting yourself prepared for a battle, then you don't have to worry about what your opponent is doing or what another person is training. So just kind of figuring out what's best for you, what's best for your training, what's best for your conditioning, for your strength, and kind of finding that balance. And once you figure that out, then you don't have to worry about what your training partner is doing. If he's training another hour extra than you, but you feel great and you're prepared and your function or your capacity is up to par, then you're gonna be ready to go on fight night. So that's the only thing you can do. Especially same goes for CrossFit. If you train your movements, if you train technique, you're gonna be ready for the CrossFit community. Whatever they bring to you that day of the competition, you're gonna be ready to take. So that's kind of my mentality.
And we have this thing in athletics, and especially in like endurance-based sports or combat sports and CrossFit, functional fitness. We have this thing that's an engine, right? Which to me is mostly cardiovascular, and respiratory, but I think the mental side of it is a huge factor, because that person that can just keep like telling themselves, just keep going, just one more rep, just couple more 30 more seconds in the fight, whatever, keep, like you said, keep going forward, even though I got kicked in the head, just keep going forward. That to me is ultimately the most intangible but the most profitable thing an athlete can have, is that big engine that is not going to quit, that's not going to shut down, and then along with that mindset. And you are somebody that's known as having a great engine. Like anybody who trains with us or around us knows that Ricky has an engine. But I will also say that Eric has an engine too. There's something in that Romo bloodline that is just hard working, no quit mother effers. And I want to know, like, where did that start? Like, have you always been that way? Have you guys always been that way? Was there like a time in your life where you just like kind of realize like, I can go one more mile, or I can go, one more round, whatever? Or have you just always had that mindset?
I I think that's one mindset we just kind of got engraved in since we were young. This goes back to my grandma. I haven't mentioned her today, but my grandma is actually she can like wake up early and won't go to bed till like 11 or 10 at night, and she's literally just she just gets up and she's ready to work. She'll get up early in the morning. Usually when I'm heading out for training, she's already up and like, hey, what do you want me to help you with around the house? Is there anything I can do? And it's that mentality, and she doesn't get tired. Like she doesn't take a nap throughout the day. She just continues to go on and on and on. And same with my dad. And so I guess it runs in the bloodline. I don't know what it is, but my dad's the same thing. He'll wake up early in the morning. He won't stop working until his head hits the pillow in bed. Then that's when he's like, all right, my day is done for today. But other than that, I mean, we've kind of had that mentality, and like, you can always just continue going and going and going. And so there's no really just like, oh, kind of lay back, see what happens. No, it's just we're always constantly working. And that's one thing I tell Eric, like, we're kind of like workhorses, bro. We kind of just attach something to ourselves or a game plan, and we kind of just go and execute it. Whatever it takes, whether it's going to take 20 or 30 or 40 or an hour or 2 hours, whatever the workout's going to take, I'm going to make sure I'm finished, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to do it right. And like you just mentioned before, without shaving reps, without having too much rest if you don't have to rest, and just having that mentality of just continue to do whatever you got to do until you finish it. And that's one thing that I guess you engrave into your mind. Whatever you start, you finish. I mean, that's one thing we live by a little bit here at our home. So
Yeah.
it comes from our family, I would say. My dad and my grandma definitely set the path for that. It's not something that we came up with or something that we kind of, developed. It's a path they set for us as well, from my grandma to my dad, now to us, to hopefully, kind of just continue that pathway of continue to work hard and continue to finish whatever you start. And sometimes things don't go your way, but you just got to, get up and moving forward again. So that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And one other thing I wanted to bring up, and so not only are you a professional MMA fighter, competitive CrossFitter, but the number 12 overall in High Rocks Dallas. Come on,
Thank you.
that's
Yeah,
big.
great
That's
experience.
huge, man.
Great experience.
So, and leading up to that, like, I know, like, I think we talked you into doing High Rocks, like, what, 2 weeks before the event.
That's right.
And there were some really good, like professional level, like endurance athletes at this thing, and it kind of High Rocks, if people are unfamiliar with it, it is, it's supposed to be like kind of like the test of fitness. They're trying to compete with CrossFit as like who are the fittest people. So you've got, OCR, obstacle course race people, you've got CrossFitters, you've got marathon runners, ultra marathon runners, and then this kid Ricky Romo just shows up and kicks everyone's ass with like 2 weeks. He didn't train specifically for it. We did a few training sessions together for it where, we kind of did a mock High Rocks, but kind of walk me through that. And like, what was going through your mind during that thing? Were you trying to stick to a certain pace on the miles? Like, did you have any strategy going into it?
Well, during that time, I would say, I kind of did cheat a little bit. I was actually during training camp, so I wouldn't say I didn't train. I mean, specifically not for High Rocks, but
You didn't train specifically for it.
yeah,
I mean, you have a great engine. We covered that, but like, you weren't like out there running miles a day. I mean, you maybe were on your own. I don't know. But like, I mean, it's like you weren't pushing heavy sleds every day and stuff like that, I'd imagine, right?
yeah, it was definitely High Rocks was definitely a great experience, and I'm glad I actually did it. That you guys kind of pushed me to do it. I mean, I was on the edge. I was like, should I do it? Should I not? Is it worth it? And that's because I was, waiting for a call from promotion to get a fight lined up as well. And so it was like, is it the right thing to do? I still have a few weeks out, but is it the best thing for me and for my body? Would I recover properly? And so, I decided to do it, but it was definitely, I definitely get butterflies before competitions, just like anybody else would. I definitely get nervous. It's a common thing for me, and I don't demonstrate it too much, but I do feel that. I do feel nervous. I do feel kind of like, oh man, how's this gonna go? I do think about it a little bit, but once I get going, it's like, everything is just clear in my mind. Just go. For instance, when I gotta run, just run. when I had to push that heavy sled and then pull that heavy sled back, it was tough. It was definitely a tough thing to do. And you've experienced it. You were there.
Yeah,
You
well, yeah, man.
yourself,
It
and
was humbling, bro. It was very, very humbling, that thing. Like I just personally dealt with like cramps and, and other issues in that whole deal. But I mean, so just to give people some perspective on what High Rocks is. So High Rocks is, what was it? It was, I think, almost 5 miles accumulative of running.
right.
But that was split up between like 8 different like CrossFit style events, none including a barbell. But those 8 events included like a rower, a ski, heavy sled push, heavy sled pull, 100 wall balls, a farmer's carry, like a lot of lunges, things like that. So kind of like giving you best of both worlds, endurance with also like a little bit of strength. But so just perspective, like I can't remember what the distance and the heats were like between like when I went and then when I think I was you probably took off, I don't know, 50 minutes. I think if we're freezing up a little bit. You got me?
Gotcha, Nick. Back on it. Yeah.
Could you hear that?
No, I did not. I did just hear to where we were talking about the different times that we left
Oh,
beat.
yeah. So what I was saying was that, I probably took off about, man, I don't know, 15 minutes or so before you. I can't remember what the heat spacing was, but I got to the third event and I already see you like 3 lanes down. And I was just like, what the hell is, like, this kid is an animal. Animal. I already knew that from training with you over the years. And like, for those of like you that aren't Tigers Den members or whatever, or know us from the gym, like I've known Ricky for 3+ years now and always known how hard of a worker he was, and how this kid will just never say quit, never say die. And like that was, to me, I was so impressed by the fact that like just how fast you were moving that, moving the sleds and like getting through that in your run times. Like these were 1,000-meter runs in between each event, and how quickly you went. And for you to be, number 12 out of, I can't even remember how many athletes were there. There was a lot. I mean, High Rocks is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. Like for you to be number 12 overall with like not really training for that, that's huge, man. So, props to you, brother.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun experience. It was one thing that we did. A lot of Tigers Den members did. Yourself, Nick, Eric, my brother,
Yeah.
also did it, and so it was definitely competitive for Tigers Den. So we all kind of went there. We trained together for a few weeks. Like you just mentioned, a few training sessions here and there. Uh, and so I was going in there. I mean, I'm a competitive guy. When it comes to competition, I'm excited to compete. And friendly competition to anything else regarding MMA, I'm always excited for. And I know that the first person I got to beat is myself. So one thing I kind of set my mind to is like, you know what? I'm gonna push myself to where at the end of the event or at the end of the competition, I don't have any regrets. Like, oh, I could have pushed harder here, or I could have done this a little better.
Yeah.
There's always things you can improve. I'm not saying that, but I don't want to have any regrets at the end of a competition. I want to make sure I kind of left it out on the field for that day, for that competition. And next time, might train, just run more or, get better at whatever event I want to get better at. But knowing that that day I did whatever I could to where my body was like, you know what, satisfied. You did a great job today. It is what it is. You ended in 12th place. Great job. And so that's my mentality, I guess, going into competition.
Yeah, I mean that to me again is huge, and it all comes back to like the mindset too of like, like you said, I've got to beat myself first. Like I'm in competition with myself first. So like, it's that like I don't want to walk away off this floor with any doubt or any like I could have done that better. And I think that's something that everybody should take inventory of, if they're competing in any sort of athletics, is like leaving it all on the floor essentially, or just like doing. And I think this, let's take this back to grandma and dad, is that like it's doing the job to see it through to the end, right? It is finishing what you started and making sure that you did it right. And I think that like having that family instill that into you makes you, you know, a big part of the athlete that you are today. And that's awesome. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
and I agree, Nick. It's like you just mentioned, I mean, the fight against yourself is probably the biggest fight you're gonna face regarding if you know if you don't get past that first fight against yourself, then I mean it's gonna be a very difficult time.
On me slightly, so hopefully we can get it. There we go. We got him back. Sorry, froze up on me a little bit here. I think there's a ton of people right now in this quarantine thing using Zoom as a meeting. Ricky, you got me here?
Got you now, Nick. I couldn't hear you for a minute, but there you go. Back on.
Okay. So looks like yeah, it looks like we're having a few issues here freezing up. So I'll cut it short here. But one of the last questions I want to ask you is like, what is your one piece of advice to anybody that is like you in your situation, that works a full-time job, that also has these aspirations and goals in some sort of athletics or sport? What's your one piece of advice that you would give to them?
You know, one of these things, I guess my piece of advice would be like, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to kind of handle everything at once, and it's hard to have those aspirations yet still managing to work a full-time job and kind of like sometimes cutting your training session to a short, just making the most out of every single training session. You know, whether it's conditioning, whether it's strength, whether it's technique drilling, whether it's a pro training in the evening. I try to make the most out of every single training session I have throughout the day. Whether it's an hour, hour and a half, I make sure that hour and a half I am working my ass off till I finish, from the time I step into the gym to the time I leave the gym. You know, I would love to be the first one in the gym and then the last one to leave every single day. Obviously, you know, with work and other things to do throughout the day, unfortunately, you just can't do that sometimes. You know, I don't have that luxury. But knowing that as soon as I step into the gym, I'll start to work to the time I, leave the gym. I will feel accomplished, and I will feel good enough that I know that whoever stays in the gym, whether they're just sitting down or stretching or whatever they're doing, my work is done that day. I'll have to continue moving forward. I'll go with my day. Once I step back into the gym, same mentality. Go in there, whether you feel like training, whether you're tired, fatigued, I know that I only have a certain amount of hours throughout the day to kind of give to my training. So I guess get into the gym, get what you got to get done, and then stepping out of the gym, moving with your day. And every single time you go back into the gym, make sure you go in with that same mentality.
I love it. I love it. So what I take out of that is, man, make the most out of whatever time that you have. If
That's
you
right.
have 30 minutes, if you have 3 hours, make the most of it, and do what you can, and be happy that you accomplished anything in that time. Be happy with what you did, and again, not think that you could have done more. And I think that's huge.
Right.
Other one, just to finish it off on a lighter note, what's your favorite cheat meal?
Oh, that's difficult right there, but I would have to go with wings. I'm a huge fan of wings. Usually I go to Pluckers. It's not a very good thing for me to do anytime I go to Pluckers, but some wings and a beer is always good on a Friday night.
Hell yeah. Do you go like super spicy, or are you kind of more of a mild guy?
I'm a spicy guy, man. Manga, habanero, stuff like that. Sometimes I try to challenge myself and eat all those 6 super spicy wings, but it never happens. So my name will never be on the Hall of Fame stuff on Pluckers, but sooner or later I'll try to do that.
Yeah, the competitor in you. Yeah, I want to be at the top of the hot wing list too.
Right.
Right on, bro. Well, Ricky, do you have another next fight scheduled yet?
Not yet with this quarantine stuff going on and this coronavirus stuff. It's been difficult. You know, a lot of promotions shut down. We know we've had a fight. We had a fight lined up for April, expecting some news on that, but unfortunately, you know, was canceled. Uh, you know, every fight in Texas was canceled. Every fight probably across the globe was canceled, and so the UFC, was the biggest organization in the world, was canceled. So, you know, it's made it difficult for sure. You know, a lot of fighters who had fights scheduled were canceled. Uh,
He froze up a little bit on me again there, brother. But anyway, hey, man, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure talking to you. And when I get back to Dallas, we're going to do it the real way with the microphones and the actual recording program, not this Zoom crap. And
no
we
worries,
won't
bro.
freeze up. So I could talk to you for hours, brother. And I look forward to seeing you soon, man.
Hey, you know, Nick, thanks for having me on this Weekend Warrior stuff. We're a great podcast, bro. And I'll catch up to you soon, bro. And when you get back to Dallas, let me know, bro.
Oh,
Gotta
yeah.
work together sometime.
I'm coming by the Romo compound for sure, dude. I'm ready to throw down, bro. Thank you so much,
bro.
man.
This is your home, bro. Appreciate it, brother.
See ya.